Well, the Lions nailed down an extension for Jared Goff. Big deal in the Motor City. Before we get into fully our thoughts about that, Ian, so let's kind of measure up where we place Jared Goff in the quarterback hierarchy of the NFL. Let me throw out a few quarterbacks and say, are you picking Jared Goff or are you picking that quarterback? How's that sound? Are you ready?
Yeah.
You ready for this test? Okay. All right. So Jared Goff or Tua? Tank for
I'm
Tua?
taking I'm taking Jared Goff every day.
Okay.
I think Tua, he's a fine quarterback, but I think Jared Goff has proven to do it at a better pace. I think they're both kind of reliant on some of the talent around them, but I think Jared Goff is more of those guys. He can handle all the different blows that can come at a team. He's led a team to a Super Bowl and has made the Lions a very viable contending team.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Tua or not Tua? Goff or Kirk Cousins?
Goff or Kirk Cousins? That's an interesting one, as I think Jared Goff makes more game-winning plays and is able to, maybe do some things that Kirk Cousins doesn't do. But statistically, you got to lean more towards Kirk Cousins, and you ask, has Kirk Cousins ever been in the same situations as Jared Goff has been with Sean McVay with the Rams, and now being a part of this Lions team, which have both been kind of poised to be those really contending teams? Is he just Kirk Cousins? I'll say Jared Goff, just because I have seen him win and win consistently throughout his career.
Yeah, that's a good one. Here's maybe another tough one because of injury history. Do you go Joe Burrow or do you go Jared Goff?
I mean, availability is one of the most important things in the NFL. But if Joe Burrow had the line that Jared Goff has with that Detroit Lions team, it's impossible to not go with Joe Burrow. Jared Goff, fantastic quarterback, but Joe Burrow, I think, is also younger. He's able to do a lot more. I think you got to go with Joe Burrow on that one.
Okay, yeah. I'm trying to think of any other. I'm trying to pick quarterbacks that would be in the same like hierarchy, level.
Yes,
But
same
yeah,
category in that maybe not elite tier of quarterbacks, not with your Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson. That's kind of the big three, I feel like, of quarterbacks currently that are
yeah,
just those stars that are consistently going to be able to not just be a winner on a good team, but be a winner even on a bad team, just because of their talent being able to elevate everybody else. Then you got that next tier of really good quarterbacks that are there. And I would say even, there's probably another tier right there before you get into the Jared Goff tier, even though I do think Jared Goff is somewhere in the top 10 quarterbacks currently in the NFL. I
yeah,
do think you still got Joe Burrow,
yeah.
Justin Herbert. Those guys are kind of in a separate tier of their own. There may be a few more guys that I would add into that second tier of quarterbacks as well. But
Yeah,
Brock
Joe
Purdy
Burrow is
probably falls
definitely
into that.
when healthy is definitely, in that like Joe Burrow for me could even be in those top 3
Mhm.
quarterbacks. You take him a couple of years ago and you go, boy, he had a winning record versus Patrick Mahomes, and was just, on that trajectory. It's just been some injuries that have sidelined him. And Jared Goff has just been so consistent with being available, Brock Purdy's another guy that we're not 100% sure where he falls, in that, hierarchy thing. I think I'd take Jared Goff over Brock Purdy, but Brock Purdy's done a really nice job in San Fran, but it was all set up really nicely for him, even though somewhat for Jared Goff as well in the 2 teams that he's had.
Yeah, I personally would go opposite of you. I would go Brock Purdy over Jared Goff.
Would you? Okay. All
I'm
right,
a big Brock Purdy believer. I do think he's one of the better quarterbacks. I think he brings a lot of the same thing that Jared Goff does in the passing game, being able to take shots. They're both really good downfield throwers of the football, and they know how to get through reads at a pretty good rate. I think Brock Purdy just brings a little bit more mobility, able to scramble on those third downs that maybe I wouldn't see Jared Goff do, and be able to pick up first downs
for
in
sure.
with his legs just a little bit more. And so that's why I lean a little bit more Brock Purdy. I also think that Brock Purdy, even though how talented that squad is with the 49ers, I think Jared Goff has an even better squad with the Lions. And so I think it's an interesting debate there. I think they're both very similar quarterbacks in the way that not they do really well with the talent that's surrounding them, but we've just never seen them in bad situations. So it's hard to be able to say which one's better.
Yeah. Jared Goff, a little bit at the beginning of his career, which did not start off all that great with those bad Rams teams before Sean McVay showed up. But, I do think that Brock Purdy's super talented. I just want to see a bigger sample size. I'm definitely not a Purdy hater. I think there's a lot of Purdy haters out there in the media. But anyways, interesting conversation, especially when you put it in terms of the Lions give Goff a 4-year extension worth $212 million. So you're looking at an annual value of $53 million. But the price tag on quarterbacks just keeps going up and up every year exponentially. And so not as outrageous as maybe that would have been even just a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's still second only to Joe Burrow in highest yearly average pay. So he is still getting a boatload of money. But you got to kind of think of it in the way that we've seen the contracts evolve in the NFL, and that these guys, once the next wave of extensions come into play, he's going to be probably right where he deserves to be in that 10th, that 7th through 12th spot in the
Mm-hmm.
contracts, which I think is where he deserves to be. And I think it's a nice move by the Lions. I do think that like you said, contracts are just getting crazy, and that's insane that he's making that kind of money. But it just makes me kind of curious on what the Lions definitely have to be banking on the fact that they are so good in the draft room, because
Yeah.
they're not going to be able to sign a lot of those high priority free agents, being able to fill them. Even those guys that you normally think are like space fillers in the championship level teams that come into play that aren't necessarily your big stars, but you need them to be able to win big time games. They're not going to be able to sign a lot of those guys. And so, I mean, they've done an amazing job drafting, maybe the best over the last since Brad Holmes has taken over in that front office, maybe the best drafting team since then. But I do think it's an interesting predicament they have, because they've given out $110 million just for this next season by signing Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Penei Sewell all to extensions.
Yeah, no, it's interesting, and I don't know if it's for sure this, but it kind of gives me a little bit of what they may have seen in practice with Hooker, right? Because they draft Hooker in last year's draft as as a potential backup, but also as a potential, could he be the next step in not extending out Goff? And I think we got our answer. They like what they see out of Goff.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, that's for sure. I does make me question. I'm not 100% sure on when this is going to come up, but when does Aiden Hutchinson's contract extension come into play? Because now all these guys getting big cash money. Once you throw Aiden Hutchinson and players on the defensive side, because they already have, put a lot of task into drafting that defensive side and making it better. When they have to pay out those guys, will they have enough cash to be able to build a defense around this really good offensive squad that I mean, that's what you need to have in offense, and we live in an offensive NFL. So I do not hate on this move at all. You have the quarterback, you have your number one wide receiver, and you have a tackle for the future. Those are kind of the three main guys you need to pay big bills to, and they were able to get it done with some high quality guys that have proven for multiple years now that they're going to work within this system. But it does question on, are they going to be able to ever build up that defense to what you hope for a championship level team?
No, absolutely. Those are good questions, but it does bring us right back to, again, in this current NFL, if you've got the quarterback that's your franchise guy already in the building, if you got that wide receiver and you got that left tackle, you stick with that. You make sure they stay in the building and they do not leave, because it's hard to replace those guys once they walk out of the building. And so Lions taking, modern NFL standards, and that's a lock up those guys on the offensive side in particular, and let's roll the dice on everything else.
I mean, I think we like it. It's a good one. I'm sure as you, as a lifelong Lions fan, you watched even back in the day when Barry Sanders was having multiple guys replaced at one after the other, and they were we'll just lean on Barry Sanders being able to fill the stands every single week. They're not doing that with this team. They're keeping together their core squad on that offense, which is really, really important to see.
I guess the big question, we've been talking about quarterbacks, like you take which one or the other, is Matthew Stafford or Jared Goff, which got this whole thing rolling in Detroit and bringing in all this young talent and doing all those things.
I mean, I still think Matthew Stafford's the better quarterback, but I do think that if you say Goff and 2 first-round picks or Matthew Stafford, which is what the deal was, I'm still taking Goff every single time, because they've been able to draft so well in the first round. They are just so talented at being able to analyze that talent, and it feels like just Brad Holmes hasn't been able to miss over the last few years. And so I'm expecting big things from their draftees from this last draft that just went down, as they got that Alabama cornerback that I'm super excited to see if they can actually build that defense up. And if they have a defense to pair with that really electric offense, they're going to be one of those teams to watch out for coming out of the NFC to compete for a Super Bowl.
I think everyone's expecting to see the Lions compete at the highest level this next year. They locked up those key players in this offseason, and we're going to see if they can continue to draft like they've been drafting. How long does this window stay open for the Detroit Lions? Well, the Lions fans have been hungry for a long time, and I hope the window stays open for a little bit longer.